Okay, so in this tutorial, we're continuing to build on the fundamental concepts of FreeCAD. Now, in previous tutorials, we worked up to this shape, this base section of the moon lander that you can see right here. This time, we're actually going to focus on hollowing out this base. Specifically, we'll look at two different scenarios, completely hollowing out the entire base and cutting a circular hole through it that leads up to the body of the lander above. Now, if you're currently joining us for the first time, this is part of an ongoing beginner FreeCAD tutorial series. We're currently on part 4, and links to the earlier tutorials can be found in the description below. Throughout this series, we've been building up a moon lander model step by step. So if you'd like to follow along with the same reference images that you see right here, you can download them using the resource link in the description below. Or if you'd prefer to work from your own product ideas, head over to Lightroom and try the CAD sketch tool. Simply upload any product image and flatten it into CAD-friendly 2D sketch material from any angle that you choose. We also recently added some really beautiful new sketch styles that are definitely worth checking out. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, hollowing out an object or adding wall thickness is actually quite straightforward in FreeCAD. So start by switching to the bottom view by either using this cube right here, or you can just press 5 on your keyboard. And then from here, what we can do is we can select the face that we want to hollow out. And in our case, it's going to be the bottom face of the base right here. Next, look for the thickness tool in the top toolbar here. Now, in other CAD software, this is often called the shell, offset, or solidify tool. If the thickness tool isn't immediately visible, click the small drop-down arrow next to these dress-up tools right here, and you'll find it nested in there somewhere. Alternatively, you can access it through part design, dress-up features, and then thickness in the top navigation bar here. Now, clicking the thickness tool will remove the selected face and prompt you to set a wall thickness. Now, you can either type a value directly into this input field here or drag the arrow on the canvas to adjust the thickness visually. Now, as always, you can enable show final result and disable show preview overlay to get a cleaner look at the finished shape, and switching draw style to shaded will remove the edge lines here if you prefer. For now, let's just leave draw style set to as is, and we'll enter a value here of 5 millimeters. And then what we'll do is we'll click on OK. So as you can see, we now have a cleanly hollowed out object with uniform wall thickness. So let's undo that for now. Let's just press Ctrl Z or just click on undo in the top menu here, because I want to show you a variation of this technique. So what if we wanted the object to have no top or bottom face at all? Essentially an open-ended tube. We can achieve that with the same thickness tool, just with a slightly different selection. Activate the thickness tool again and select the top face. Now you'll see it appear in the thickness parameters list right here. Now rotate the object to expose the bottom face and select that face too. Now with both faces selected, you'll see them both in this list right here. Now all we need to do here is just set the desired wall thickness, and then we can press on OK. Now notice that FreeCAD has removed both faces and created these walls here, leaving a completely open object. So go ahead and undo all of this work again. Just keep pressing Ctrl Z until you're back to the original solid box. I have another technique that I want you to look at. Okay, so next let's look at the pocket tool. So rather than hollowing out the entire object, imagine that we just wanted to cut a circular hole up through this base leading into the body of the lander above. And that's exactly what the pocket tool can do. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll just navigate back to the bottom view here. Again, remember you can do this through moving the cube here, or what we can do is we can just press 5 on our keyboard. And then what we'll do is we'll select this Fit All button to center our object on the screen. Then we'll select the bottom face, and then we'll click the New Sketch icon. Now, this is a really important concept to understand, so let's just take a moment with it here. Now, when we first created this shape, we had no existing geometry to work with, so we sketched on top of an invisible construction plane. But now we have model geometry to work with. Think of this model geometry as sort of the physical body that we're building. And with this new model geometry, we can use any flat face of that body as a sketch plane instead. Now, this is a much more common workflow as your models grow in complexity. So to make this crystal clear, let me demonstrate. So first of all, just close the current operation and rotate around the object. Now, click on any flat face. It will highlight to show that it's been selected. Then click the sketch icon here. Now, FreeCAD will automatically orient your view to that face and you can begin sketching directly on top of it. So now that you understand how that works, let's just cancel out this operation and get back on track. Again, what we'll do is we'll press 5 on our keyboard to return to the bottom view, and then we'll select the bottom face. And again, now we're going to click on Sketch. Now, let's draw our circle. Select the Circle from Center tool right here, and then snap it to the center point of the face and sketch a circle with a diameter of 50 millimeters. Now at this point, you might be tempted to reach for the pad tool. After all, that's what we used previously to give 2D geometry some depth, and it would work in one direction. But there is a problem. Pad is an additive operation. It adds geometry. What we need to do here now is the opposite. We need to remove or subtract geometry. Now, what trips up a lot of people here is that in some CAD or 3D modeling tools, you can actually add and remove geometry using the same tool, but you can't do that in FreeCAD. However, the good news here is that FreeCAD makes this distinction between adding and removing geometry very clear in its interface here. If you look at the toolbar, you'll notice the icons are divided into two groups here. Here you'll see these additive features on one side, and you'll see the subtractive features on the other. You'll also see the same grouping if you click on Part Design in the top navigation bar here. You'll notice that additive features are listed separately from subtractive ones. So since we're trying to cut a hole through the base rather than build on top of it, we need to use a subtractive tool. So that's exactly what we're going to do next here. So here we're going to need a subtractive feature, and specifically we want to cut a hole down through the base here. So first, just make sure that you've undone the pad operation or any other operation you've been experimenting with so that you're left with just the circle sketch, and confirm also that the sketch is selected in the model tree over here. Now, instead of selecting pad like we did before, we're going to select pocket. Now you'll immediately notice that you can push the cut inward and even taper it to get the shape that you're looking for. Now there are several ways to set the depth here. So the first approach is just to do this manually. Just drag the arrow on the canvas or type a value directly into the depth field over here. Or what you can do is you can select this option for through all. Now this will send the cut all the way through the entire object regardless of depth. You could select this option for up to first, and what this will do is it will stop the cut at the first face it encounters. Or you can select this option for to face, and this lets you manually select the specific face as an endpoint for the cut. Also, remember, you can enable Show Final Result and disable Show Preview Overlay to get a clean look at the finished shape. As you can see here, we've successfully cut a hole straight through the base. Now, here's where things can get even more interesting because we can combine this with the thickness tool. So switch to the bottom view again and reapply the thickness operation like we did previously. And now notice that we have both the circular cutout and the uniform wall thickness applied together. Now we can take this even further. So for example, imagine that we didn't want the inner tube to extend all the way down to the same level as the outer walls. So again, let's just press 5 on our keyboard here to switch to the bottom view. Then what we'll do is we'll select the face of this bottom tube and we'll apply another pocket operation. And then from here, what we can do is we can push the geometry so the tube recedes in on itself. So click on OK, and now you'll see that the tube now sits higher than the surrounding walls. Now, another incredibly useful feature in FreeCAD is the clipping tool, which lets you slice through your model to see inside of it. Now, this is especially valuable when you're designing an enclosure or housing that needs to contain other components. So for example, robotics housing where you need to verify that there's enough internal space for sensors, wiring, or other parts. Now, rather than guessing, you can just cut away at a section of the model and inspect the interior directly. So to try it, press 1 on your keyboard to switch to the front view and then click on View, Clipping, and then activate Clipping Y. Now you'll immediately be able to see inside your object. Now from here, you can rotate around your object and even toggle these other clipping tools on or off to see the inside from different angles. You can also control how much of the model gets clipped by adjusting the values in the clipping panel right here. Okay, so that's a wrap on 4 key techniques: sketching on existing geometry, the pocket tool, the thickness tool, and the clipping tool. Now, if we toggle the Moonlander reference image back on here, you can see that we're making solid progress on the overall design. It's really starting to take shape. Also, if you'd like to follow along with your own custom product ideas rather than the Moonlander here, just head over to Lightroom to learn more about our product design and ideation tools for engineers and designers, including our CAD-friendly 2D sketch tool. A link can be found in the description below. Also, remember, if you found this tutorial helpful and you learned something new today, a quick like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. It really helps the channel. Thanks for stopping by today.